You sit in silence, staring at the empty space where their presence once brought warmth, and suddenly it hits you the painful, clear truth: they didn't leave, they outgrew you. That click, that sharp pang of understanding, is both heartbreaking and illuminating. You realize it now, as the weight of your own resistance begins to lift. Growth is not just about moving forward. It is about evolving beyond what was comfortable, safe, familiar. The super empath you cherished didn't abandon you. They simply recognized that their spirit was meant for horizons you were not yet ready to walk with them. It's easy to mistake absence for betrayal, to feel hurt and confused, to believe that someone walking away is a rejection of you as a person. But the truth is far more profound. Outgrowing isn't leaving, it's a natural expansion of the soul. It is a courageous step towards authenticity, a refusal to stay small in a world that demands growth. And when you see this, your entire perception of what happened begins to shift. What once felt like loss now becomes a mirror reflecting the areas of yourself you have yet to evolve. Suddenly, the limitations you have carried so silently come into focus. Fear, insecurity, the need to control, the clinging to comfort, it all stands revealed. They didn't move on because they wanted to hurt you. They moved on because they had grown beyond the space you were able to hold. And in that moment, clarity hits. True love is never about control. True love is about freedom. Freedom to explore, freedom to expand, freedom to become who you are always meant to be. And if you cannot walk that path together, the universe gently nudges sometimes with the sharpness of heartbreak, so each soul can find alignment with its highest purpose. This is the spiritual rhythm of life. Growth is sacred, and sometimes alignment means separation. The super empath's evolution is not a reflection of your failure. Is a call to awaken within yourself. It is an invitation to face the parts of you that have resisted transformation, that have clung to what no longer serves you. Their courage, their authenticity, their ability to step into the unknown. This is not abandonment, but illumination. They are showing you what is possible when one refuses to settle, when one refuses to shrink in the presence of love. And as the realization sinks in, there is a shift, a subtle yet profound change in your consciousness. Gratitude emerges. Gratitude for the lessons, for the love shared, for the awakening that their departure catalyzed within you. Because in the end, the super empath didn't leave to hurt you, they left to honor themselves. They outgrew the version of the relationship that could no longer contain their light. And in witnessing this, you too are given a chance to grow, to rise, to expand beyond the shadows of fear, insecurity, and limitation. The moment it clicks, it is transformative. You see with new eyes. You understand that loss and love are not opposites. They are intertwined, guiding each soul to its fullest expression. And while the ache remains, it is tempered by the wisdom of knowing that growth, authenticity, and love are never truly lost. They simply move to the space where they are meant. To thrive. Growth is the ultimate form of love, though it is a truth that many of us only come to understand after the sting of loss has taught us to see more clearly. We often confuse love with possession, with attachment, with the desperate need to keep someone within the narrow boundaries of what we can control or comprehend. But the moment we truly witness growth in another, we realize that love is not about holding, it is about expansion. It is about allowing someone the freedom to stretch their wings even when the sight of them flying away fills us with fear, sadness, or doubt. Growth is sacred, and when we recognize it in someone else, it is a reflection not only of their journey, but also of the depth and authenticity of love itself. To love someone deeply means to honor their evolution, to recognize that their potential cannot always be contained by our expectations, our comfort zones, or our understanding of what is safe. It means acknowledging that the person we care for is more than a reflection of our needs. They are a universe unto themselves, with infinite layers waiting to unfold. When someone outgrows you, it can feel like a wound, a rejection of your worth, or a failure on your part. But the truth is far more profound. Growth is not about diminishing you. It is about the natural unfolding of their spirit. Every human being is designed to expand, to rise, to evolve, and to move toward the highest expression of who they are. Sometimes this growth aligns with the relationships we are in, and sometimes it surpasses them. And when it surpasses them, it does not diminish the love that was shared. It amplifies it, transforming it into a lesson of the deepest kind. It teaches us that love is not static. It is not a chain that binds. It is a river that flows, carrying each of us toward the experiences, the connections, and the wisdom that we are ready to receive. To love someone in this way is to celebrate their courage, their pursuit of purpose, and their commitment to becoming their highest self, even when it means stepping beyond the relationship that once defined them. The beauty of understanding growth as love is that it reframes our perception of absence. What once may have felt like abandonment becomes a testament to bravery. It becomes a sacred acknowledgement that they are choosing themselves, their evolution, and their truth over comfort, complacency, or fear. There is nothing cruel in growth. It is the natural law of life manifesting itself. And when we begin to see it this way, we start to release the illusion that love requires possession. We start to comprehend that true love is generous, unselfish, and profoundly freeing. We see that the moments of distance, the choices that seem painful, and the paths that diverge are all opportunities to honor another's journey while reflecting on our own. Growth also illuminates the parts of ourselves that have been dormant, fearful, or stagnant. When we witness someone moving beyond the space we occupy in their life, it becomes a mirror. It challenges us to ask difficult questions. Are we resisting our own evolution? Are we clinging to what is familiar at the cost of becoming who we are meant to be? The ultimate act of love is to recognize that growth is not only theirs, it is ours to embrace as well. To see someone outgrow you is to be invited to expand in tandem, to rise to a higher level of awareness, and to cultivate the courage to honor not only their journey, but also your own. When we finally understand that growth is the ultimate form of love, the pain of separation transforms into reverence. We learn to celebrate the courage it takes to evolve, to honor the sacredness of the soul's expansion, and to recognize that true love is never about holding someone back. It is about creating space for them to shine, even if that brilliance illuminates a path that no longer intersects with ours. In this understanding, love becomes limitless, sacred, and transformative. It is no longer measured by presence alone, but by the depth of respect, freedom, and acknowledgement we give to another human being's unfolding journey. Growth, in its purest form, is love without boundaries, love that liberates, and love that ultimately transcends the self. There is a profound difference between leaving and outgrowing, and it is a distinction that only becomes clear when we step back and look at the situation with clarity and honesty. Leaving is often associated with fear, avoidance, or a desire to escape discomfort. It carries a sense of rejection, of abandoning what once mattered, of choosing oneself over another, without reflection or deeper understanding. Outgrowing, on the other hand, is not born from fear or selfishness. It is born for evolution, from the natural unfolding of a soul that is seeking its highest expression. To outgrow someone is not to reject them. It is to recognize that the relationship as it currently exists cannot contain the expansion that is taking place within you. It is an act of courage, a declaration of authenticity, and a testament to the human spirit's relentless drive to evolve. When we confuse the two, we often carry unnecessary pain, believing we have been left behind, when, in truth, we have merely witnessed a transformation that we were not ready to match. Outgrowing is not abrupt or impulsive. It is often a quiet, subtle shift that begins internally long before it manifests externally. The super empath, the person whose depth of feeling and understanding we may have, once relied on, does not wake up one morning and suddenly decide to leave. They grow gradually, expanding their consciousness, their awareness, and their emotional capacity. They begin to see what is possible beyond the confines of the current dynamic, and they start to align themselves with what serves their highest self. It is a process of enlightenment, a journey of discovery, and a movement toward freedom that cannot be rushed or forced. Leaving, in contrast, is often immediate, reactive, and driven by circumstance rather than in evolution. It may be necessary at times, but it is not synonymous with the slow, deliberate unfolding that outgrowing represents. When someone outgrows you, it challenges your perspective on attachment and expectation. We are conditioned to equate presence with loyalty, consistency with love, and familiarity with security. But outgrowing reminds us that these measures are limited and often misleading. Presence alone does not define commitment, nor does comfort signify growth. True love, true connection, is measured not by how long someone stays, but by how fully they embrace the opportunity to become who they are meant to be. Outgrowing is not a judgment on the other person's worth or the value of the relationship. P is a reflection of the natural boundaries of what each person can hold at a given stage in their life. It is the universe's way of honoring the truth that growth cannot be contained or compromised for the sake of familiarity. This distinction also shifts the lens through which we view our own reactions. When we feel hurt, abandoned, or rejected, it is easy to assume that someone leaving is a personal slight. But understanding the difference between leaving and outgrowing allows us to see that their evolution is not an indictment of our worth. It is simply a divergence of paths. They are moving into a space that aligns with their purpose, their soul, and their growth. And while it may feel painful, it is an invitation for us to reflect on our own limitations, our own capacity for growth, and the ways in which we may be resisting our own evolution. Recognizing the difference also cultivates gratitude. We can begin to honor the journey of the person who has outgrown us, appreciating the love, lessons, and depths they brought into our lives without clinging to the illusion that they are abandoning us. Leaving may close doors abruptly, leaving us questioning and hurting, but outgrowing opens doors of understanding, self-reflection, and eventual transformation. It is an opportunity to see love not as a possession, but as a force that propels, elevates, and expands both souls involved, even if the paths must diverge. In this understanding, pain transforms into wisdom, heartbreak, ache into insight, and loss into the fertile ground for personal and spiritual growth. When the super empath outgrows you, it acts like a mirror held up to your own life, illuminating truths you may have been avoiding. There is a moment, a sharp, almost shocking realization when you begin to see not only their growth, but your own limitations in stark relief. It is rarely comfortable, because the human ego resists reflection that challenges its sense of adequacy, control, and identity. Yet this awakening is essential, for it is only when we confront our own limitations that true transformation can begin. Their evolution forces us to ask difficult questions. Where have I been holding back? Where have I allowed fear, pride, or insecurity to define my actions? Where have I clung to what no longer serves me out of comfort, habit, or the illusion of control? These questions can sting, yet they are the very doorway to growth. Without them, the cycle of repeating old patterns, pushing away those who are expanding or clinging to relationships that no longer fit, is likely to continue. Awakening to your own limitations is not about assigning blame to yourself. It is not about self-condemnation or endless regret for what might have been done differently. It is about clarity, seeing where your emotional capacity, your patterns of avoidance, and your unwillingness to fully embrace change may have created a space too small for the depth and light of the super empath to flourish. Often it is subtle. Perhaps it is a hesitation to communicate, a fear of vulnerability, or the unconscious need to control outcomes. These limitations are not moral failings, they are human realities. And yet, they have consequences. They create boundaries not just for ourselves, but for those we care about. The super empath, in their courage and clarity, recognizes these boundaries. They honor themselves enough to move beyond them when growth demands it. This awakening can be painful precisely because it shines a light on the parts of us we have tried to ignore. It asks us to look inward with brutal honesty, to examine the habits, fears, and insecurities that may have hindered connection. But it is also liberating. Once we begin to see our limitations, we can take responsibility for them not as a burden, but as an opportunity. We can understand that our inability to fully meet the evolving needs of another does not make us inherently unworthy. It simply points to areas where growth is needed. Their outgrowing is not a rejection. It is an invitation for us to expand the borders of our emotional intelligence, our courage, and our willingness to be fully present. Moreover, awakening to limitations is a spiritual and emotional practice. It asks us to release the illusion of control, to recognize that love is not a tool for possession, and to understand that each person's journey is sacred and autonomous. The super empath's growth is a reflection of the universe's natural law that expansion is inevitable and resistance only prolongs suffering. In acknowledging our own limitations, we begin to align with this law instead of fighting against it. We cultivate humility, patience, and the capacity to see others as more than mirrors for our own ego or needs. We start to perceive relationships as dynamic, evolving spaces, rather than fixed arrangements bound by fear, expectation. And when this awakening takes root, it transforms our understanding of love and connection. We no longer measure our worth by whether someone stayed within the confines of what we could offer. We begin to appreciate the courage it takes to evolve, the bravery it takes to step beyond familiarity, and the wisdom that comes from recognizing our own part in the journey. In this way, their outgrowing becomes less about loss and more about awakening to the truth of who we are, who we can become, and the endless possibilities that lie ahead when we are willing to confront our own limitations with honesty, courage, and grace. Are the most challenging truths to accept is that control is an illusion, especially in matters of the heart. Many of us cling to the idea that if we try hard enough, hold tightly enough, or manipulate circumstance, just so, we can make someone stay, love us fully, or remain exactly as we want them to be. We convince ourselves that love is a contract we can enforce, that relationships are puzzles we can solve, and that emotions can be managed if only we exert GH influence. But the moment the super empath begins to outgrow you, that illusion shatters. No amount of fear, guilt, or persuasion can stop the natural course of growth. They cannot be contained by our expectations, held hostage by our insecurities, or limited by our desire for familiarity. And when that realization hits, it is both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it exposes the ways we have been trying to bend reality to our will, and liberating because it teaches us the true nature of love, that it is not about control, it is about freedom. The illusion of control often masquerades as love. We convince ourselves that insisting on a certain behavior, setting rigid boundaries, or resisting change is an act of protection or devotion. But in truth, it is rooted in fear, the fear of loss, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of confronting our own inadequacies. When we finally see that the super empath is outgrowing us, we confront the fact that no strategy, no argument, no compromise, or attempt to hold them back can alter the trajectory of someone committed to their growth. Their evolution is not contingent on our approval or participation. It is a self-directed journey guided by the innate drive of the soul to expand and reach its highest expression. This is a humbling realization because it forces us to release the fantasy that we are the architects of someone else's path, or that love can exist on terms defined by fear rather than authenticity. Outgrowing highlights the consequences of trying to control love. When we attempt to confine another person to what we are comfortable with, we inadvertently restrict their growth and diminish the potential of the connection itself. Relationships are not static. They are living entities that require space, nourishment, and mutual respect to thrive. The super empath understands this intuitively. They recognize that to honor themselves, they must move beyond what is limited, even if that means leaving behind someone they care deeply for. Their choice to evolve is a testament to the courage it takes to prioritize authenticity over convenience, and it serves as a mirror to reveal our own attachment patterns. It teaches us that control is not protection, it is a cage and the act of attempting to dominate or restrict. Another is an act of fear, not love. Once we internalize this truth, a profound shift begins to occur. We start to recognize that real love is voluntary, not coerced. It is a willingness to let go, to trust, and to honor the journey of the other, even when it diverges from our own path. We begin to see relationships as sacred spaces for mutual growth, not as transactions designed to meet our individual needs. We learn to celebrate freedom as an essential part of connection, understanding that when someone chooses to stay, it is not out of obligation or fear, but out of authentic desire. Control dissolves, and with it comes a new clarity, the realization that love is at its highest when it is not forced, not restrained, and not manipulated. And in that clarity, we begin to heal. We let go of the illusion that we can engineer love or hold someone to our ideal. We accept that the super empath is outgrowing us not out of spite or disinterest, but out of alignment with their own soul. In surrendering the illusion of control, we reclaim our own freedom. We see that love is not about ownership. It is about allowing, trusting, and embracing the flow of life. And in this understanding, we are invited to expand, to grow, and to prepare ourselves for connections that are rooted not in fear or control, but in authenticity, respect, and the boundless possibility of love that is freely given and freely received. There is a spiritual principle at work in relationships, one that many overlook until the moment of separation illuminates it with crystal clarity: alignment. Alignment is the natural resonance between two souls, a harmony that allows each person to grow, evolve, and thrive in tandem. When two people are aligned, there is a sense of ease, of mutual understanding, and of energy that flows effortlessly between them. But when alignment is lost, when one soul begins to expand beyond the capacity of the other, the universe gently, insistently calls for a realignment. The super empath does not leave out of cruelty or rejection. They move because their growth demands it. And when this occurs, it is not merely a relationship ending, it is a spiritual realignment. A recalibration of energy that ensures each person can continue on their highest path without stagnation or compromise. Understanding this principle transforms heartbreak into insight, frustration into acceptance, and loss into sacred awareness. Alignment is more than shared values or mutual affection. It is the deeper energetic resonance that allows souls to evolve together, supporting each other's growth rather than obstructing it. The super empath is acutely sensitive to this resonance. They feel when a connection nurtures their expansion. And they also feel when it no longer serves the evolution of their spirit. Outgrowing someone is not a betrayal. It is a recognition that the energy between them has shifted, that their own evolution requires a new space, and that clinging to a misaligned relationship would be a disservice both to themselves and to the other person. This principle teaches us that relationships are not meant to be static or stagnant. They are meant to be dynamic, reflective. The ongoing evolution of the souls involved. When alignment is lost, it can feel like a personal failure or a rejection. But the spiritual principle at work is neither judgmental nor punitive. It is simply natural law. Just as seasons change, so too do relationships and the energy between individuals. Some connections are meant to flourish for a lifetime, while others are designed to guide, teach, and catalyze growth before diverging into separate paths. The super empath honors this LAW instinctively. They recognize that forcing alignment where it no longer exists is an act of resistance, not love. And it is in witnessing this courage and clarity that we are invited to awaken ourselves. We are challenged to examine our own alignment with our purpose, our growth, and our truth. Their outgrowing is a reflection of the path we may also need to walk if we are to live fully and authentically. This principle also redefines how we understand loss and separation. When someone moves beyond us, it is not necessarily because we are unworthy or inadequate. It is because the alignment that once existed has shifted, and the evolution of their soul requires a different trajectory. The universe, in its wisdom, is not punishing us, but guiding us. Outgrowing is a form of divine redirection, a cosmic nudge to realign with our own highest potential, to release what no longer serves us, and to prepare for the connections that are truly harmonious and expansive. Recognizing this reframes the pain of separation as an opportunity to grow spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. It reminds us that love is not about clinging, controlling, or resisting. It is about attuning to the flow of energy and rhythm of the universe. Understanding alignment also allows us to honor the super empath's journey without resentment. We begin to see their movement not as a loss, but as a sacred act of courage, a commitment to truths, and a willingness to embrace their evolution fully. Their departure is not an end, it is a recalibration, a spiritual course correction that ensures both parties have the space to continue evolving. And as we grasp this, we recognize our own responsibility to seek alignment within ourselves, to cultivate clarity about our purpose, and to honor the energy we bring into each relationship. In this awareness, love transforms from dependency to freedom, from attachment to respect, and from fear to a profound, sacred understanding of the interconnectedness of all souls. When someone outgrows you, the experience often acts as a mirror, reflecting back not only the truths about them, but also the truths about yourself. Emotional maturity is one of the clearest indicators of this reflection. The super empath, in their evolution, embodies a depth of understanding, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence that can illuminate the gaps in our own emotional growth. Their ability to navigate feelings, communicate with clarity, and act from a place of integrity can highlight the ways in which we have resisted confronting our own emotional limitations. This mirror is not a tool of judgment, but a lens of revelation showing us where fear, avoidance, or unresolved pain may have kept us stagnant. Outgrowing someone does not simply signify their strength, it reveals the opportunities for our own emotional expansion. Emotional maturity is cultivated through experience, reflection, and the courage to face the truth about oneself. When the super empath moves beyond a relationship, it forces a confrontation with areas we may have long ignored. Patterns of insecurity, avoidance of vulnerability, or tendencies to control rather than connect. Their growth acts as a catalyst, creating tension that cannot be avoided. We may feel frustration, regret, or even resentment, yet these feelings serve a purpose. They are signals pointing toward aspects of ourselves that require attention and healing. The mirror they hold up is honest and uncompromising, and it asks us to step into our own responsibility, not for their sake, but for the sake of our own evolution. In essence, the emotional maturity of the super empath becomes a guidepost revealing where we need to stretch, expand, and transform. When we examine this mirror closely, we begin to understand that the limitations we encounter in ourselves are often the very reasons the relationship could not continue at alignment. Perhaps it is the fear of being vulnerable, the need for control, or the inability to communicate authentically. Whatever it may be, the super empath's evolution exposes it gently but firmly. Their clarity, courage, and refusal to compromise their growth reflect back the areas where we have allowed comfort or fear to dictate our actions. In this reflection, there is no shame-only insight. It becomes an opportunity to acknowledge, confront, and work through our emotional patterns so that future connections can be richer, more authentic, and more aligned with the highest version of ourselves. The mirror emotional maturity also teaches patience and empathy. We begin to understand that growth is not linear and that each person evolves at their own pace. The super empath's ability to navigate their evolution with grace and compassion highlight the importance of self-awareness, self-regulation, and intentional action. When we witness this, we are inspired to cultivate these same qualities within ourselves. Their departure or outgrowing is not a failure of love. It is a lesson in the power of emotional intelligence and the profound impact it has on relationships. It demonstrates that maturity is not measured by the ability to hold on, but by the capacity to understand, honor, and release when necessary. Ultimately, this mirror allows us to see that emotional growth is a lifelong practice. The super empath's evolution becomes a reminder that the only control we truly have is over ourselves, our responses, our growth, and our capacity to navigate life with integrity. When we take responsibility for our emotional maturity, we no longer view their outgrowing as a loss to be feared, but as a gift to be received. It challenges us to step into our own power, confront our limitations, and cultivate the wisdom, resilience, and self-awareness necessary to align with those who are on a similar path of growth. In this way, the mirror they hold up is not a reflection of inadequacy, but a roadmap, guiding us toward a fuller, more conscious, and more authentic version of ourselves. When the moment comes, and it clicks that the super empath didn't leave out of disinterest or rejection, but out of growth, there is a subtle shift in consciousness. The pain of separation, once raw and all-consuming, begins to soften, revealing a deeper layer of understanding, gratitude. Gratitude is not for the loss itself, nor for the emptiness that lingers where love once thrived. It is for the lesson embedded in the experience, the wisdom woven through the heartbreak, and the mirror of self-awareness that their evolution reflects. This kind of gratitude requires maturity, courage, and humility. It asks us to release the instinct to cling, to blame, or to resist, and instead to see the divine choreography of growth that has unfolded before us. To feel gratitude for the lesson is to acknowledge that every relationship, every shared moment, and every emotional encounter carries the potential to awaken us, to expand our consciousness, and to elevate our capacity for love. The lesson in Outgrowing is profound. It teaches us that love is not possession, that connection is not control, and that attachment is never the same as understanding. When we resist this truth, the heart remains heavy, the mind restless, and the soul confined. But when we shift into gratitude, a remarkable transformation occurs. The heartbreak beck. Om's a teacher, the separation becomes a guide, and the super empath becomes a symbol of courage and clarity rather than loss. We start to understand that the richness of their presence, the depth of their love, and the authenticity of their soul were gifts designed to expand us. Even if only temporarily, they came into our lives not to stay forever, but to catalyze growth, illuminate our blind spots, and inspire a higher version of ourselves. Gratitude for the lesson also reframes the way we perceive closure. We begin to release the need for explanations, the desire to control narratives, and the compulsion to rewrite history in our favor. The super empath's departure or outgrowing is not an injustice. It is a natural consequence of alignment, evolution, and authenticity. When we can honor this without resistance, we step into a space of grace or recognition that life unfolds according to principles far greater than our immediate understanding. This gratitude is not passive. It is an active acknowledgement of the growth we have been offered, the courage we have witnessed, and the truths we are now capable of seeing. Moreover, embracing gratitude for the lesson fosters self-empowerment. We begin to recognize that our value is not diminished by their evolution, nor is our worth dependent on their presence. Instead, we see ourselves as participants in a larger journey, where every connection teaches, every departure instructs, and every heartbreak illuminates. Gratitude shifts our energy from regret to reflection, from resentment to reverence, and from despair to possibility. It allows us to honor what was, integrate its wisdom, and step forward with clarity, resilience, and a deeper capacity for love. Finally, gratitude for the lesson nurtures compassion not only for the super empath, but also for ourselves. We recognize that they acted from authenticity, that they chose growth over comfort, and that their courage is a reminder of the potential within each of us. At the same time, we extend kindness to ourselves for the times we resisted, misunderstood, or feared growth. This duality of compassion, the recognition of their journey, and our own, creates a profound sense of peace. The click is no longer just an acknowledgement of loss. It is a doorway to understanding, transformation, and alignment with the universal truth that growth, love, and evolution are inseparable. When we cultivate gratitude in this way, heartbreak becomes sacred, separation becomes a guide, and the super empath, in their wisdom and courage, leaves behind a gift far greater than their presence ever could. The lesson that love is not about holding on, but about understanding, learning, and rising alongside the flow of life. In this awareness, every ending becomes an awakening, every goodbye becomes a blessing, and every act of outgrowing becomes a divine opportunity to embrace growth, purpose, and the endless capacity of the heart. Absolutely. Here's a simple and heartfelt version for you. Thank you for allowing me to share this journey of growth and clarity with you. May your path be filled with wisdom, love, and the courage to embrace your own evolution. Goodbye.